Hello. This is going to be a video for replacing the rollover valve and liquid check valve slash separator. Um, so stay tuned. Okay, so here's the book. And there, of course, is fuel tank. There's the liquid check valve. There's the two ports. And of course, it leads up to the check valve and to the canister. Oh, by the way, this is the original service book that Dad purchased back when he got the Jeep. Actually have the service specifications and the original brochure that you would look at when you were in the showroom. But anyway, that being said, this piece is plastic and it is leaking. Well, I can't find where you can buy that or any aftermarket copy of it. The best I was able to find was this in eBay, which, you know, let's see, what does it say? Rollover check valve assembly. If it's, that year, I think that's what I paid for it. Well, when you get it, it shows up in this plain brown wrapper. And of course, it's not going to cooperate doing this one-handed, and there it is, pretty much the same as the picture. Now, it would normally sit, up and down like this. That's what goes to the canister, and then of course they just got a T in here, so I guess you would hook the two lines that go vertical. They would now go horizontal. Now this is just straight through. There's no anything there. So essentially all you're really doing is taking these two lines and just pointing them at each other. Then the upper part is the check valve. I'm going to go ahead and put it on, but I don't really know what the advantage of it is other than just taking these two lines, putting your own T-fitting in that you probably could get for $2, and then just using the original, because this is metal. So this is probably going to last indefinitely. I haven't taken it out yet to make sure it's not stuck or something, but as long as this is working, you really don't need this, because all it is a rollover check valve. It doesn't recreate anything here. I mean, you could do the same thing there again, just buying your own T-fitting. So FYI, you probably don't really need this thing here, unless your original one is long since gone or something. But anyway, that's what we're doing. And I'm going to draw a little picture and show you something else I found interesting. Here we go. Okay. One thing interesting I found when I dropped the tank, because I was trying to figure out a fuel starvation problem I was having. And and of course, this is the tank front. This is the fuel inlet area, and of course, this is the two vent or emissions port lines. Well, when I had the tank out, I also pulled out the fuel sender, and I noticed a fuel line inside the tank. And the fuel line goes, I think, from this rear port to a module that is up against the underside of the top of the tank. So evidently, this one is meant to draw off of the upper center of the tank. This one appeared to just go in the side, and that was it. That's all it did, was go into the inside. Now, this particular fuel line inside the tank is about 98% deteriorated and is pretty much 100% useless. I tried to pull it out, but even as deteriorated as it wasn't coming out. So as far as my fuel line going to the engine, I definitely have a fuel filter right about here to catch debris, because this thing is just really bad. But that being said, the rest of the tank was looked like new inside. There was some debris I cleaned out, but otherwise I didn't feel like I needed to replace the tank because it looked like new inside. And this is now obviously not doing much. So in reality, even though this has a fuel line on it, the fuel line is so deteriorated, it's just going to pull from about right here. But I just find it interesting. I didn't realize that was there. I've never seen any indication that there is a fuel line there, but there is. So it must have drawn originally off of some kind of capsule or module to get from the center rather than all the way out here on the end. So I don't know. I just found that interesting. I didn't know that was in there, and I've never heard any indication of that being in there. But I'm not necessarily doing these videos in the order you're seeing them, but I'm going to end up using this one here for a return line. But I'll explain that some more, and we'll go from there. Okay, well, here we are, starting in on this project. And let's see. And there it is. Now I got these two cut off already. Whoops. Where is it? There we go. I got those two cut off already because of the, I had the tank out. And right now I've got, this isn't going to work real well, is it? And right now I've got, come on, focus. Right now I've just got a loop on there, which I don't want to leave that there anyway because it builds up pressure in the tank. So I'm probably going to do this a little bit at a time because I'm really not going to be able to hold the camera. Oops, there's the light, and do this at the same time. So, so I'll get it out here first. It looks like we just got those two. Get the light going the right direction here. Looks like we just got those two. Boy, this is not going to go well, is it? Anyway, looks like we just got those two up there, so we'll start with those. Okay. Okay, well, we got it out. So it was a bit of a hassle because essentially the nuts, bolts, even though these are held in with these lock washers, ultimately as you're trying to take the nut off of the end of this, the stud, the whole thing turns. So you're stuck trying to get to both sides. And of course they make it nice and difficult. You got 3/8 on the nut side, but you got 5/16 on the bolt head side. So you got to try and figure that out. And of course you're looking up in that void. I've already cut off the rollover valve, which went there, because I was just curious if it still worked. And nearest I can tell it does, but I might as well just use the new one. There's the separator. I think it's got the crack right about there or something, but I may try to take that apart and see what is going on in there. Interesting factoid. Several years ago, I replaced these lines, all these lines, because they were, you know, even back when I did them, they were decades old. Well, interestingly enough, this end on the separator is 1/4 inch, but on the tank end up there is 5/16. So you either got to use fuel lines a little too big or a little too small, depending on which end you're going. So what I did is I got these fittings, local hardware store, male, female, and I got one going 1/4 inch this way and 5/16 this way. So we're going to go get the new one and see what size it has on it. Right, you're right back. Okay, well, we're back. All right, so the T fitting here is 5/16, which will go to the tank. But interestingly, the top here is 1/4 inch. And I tested with the line that goes up front to the canister, and it fits that also. So this must also be 1/4 inch. So FYI, 5/16 on the bottom to the tank ports and 1/4 inch on the top. So now that fuel line actually isn't too bad. I'm just going to reuse that. But just FYI, we are 1/4 inch on top. Okay, well, I'm going to start trying to get this thing together, so I'll let you know how that goes. Okay, looking up in there, I put a little shot of, show what that is. I put a little shot of silver paint up in there to give perspective of where the rollover valve was, the factory one. So I'm thinking, of course, the new one probably needs to be at least at a similar height up here, so which would make some sense because you don't want it filling up with fuel from the tank either. So anyway, we'll try to put it up there. We'll see how that goes. Okay, so got it mounted. Probably it's this bolt here, probably 1.5 inches above that big hole there. Okay. Then get under here, and there it is. So the bolt is on the other side of this. So I drilled a hole, put the first nut and bolt through, and everything is a bit of a pain because it's a nut and bolt, so you got to hold both ends. Oh, and by the way, it's metric, it's a 10. Then I attached this first, put it up there, put this narrower in through the slot, pulled it down a little bit, and then put this one in that cinches up the clamp. So now I just have to do this end, which goes to the tank ports. So that's where we're at. Okay, I think we got it. There's a stack of cushions I set up so I could raise my body up. But anyway, to reach up in there with tools. Okay, let's see. So there it is. There again, we got the I can't get my hand in there. Let me try my left here. Okay, so we got the hose that goes to the front. Then we got one of the hoses to the vapor, or to the gas tank, I should say, one of the vapor ports. And then the other one, as you might notice, here is blocked off. And if this will get in there, you can see that only one hose is on. I plan on making that a return line temporarily. I will explain at the end of the video, so those of you that don't want to listen to a lengthy explanation about my problems, you don't have to, but I'll explain that. Now let me go. I'm curious what the inside of that factory separator uh, looks like. So we'll get into that. Well, I don't think I know much more than I knew before, but I was able to get it apart. So this clamps on there, and there is the out, which is that, which appears to be plugged. I'm not even sure how vacuum would get through to that. Then you got this piece that sits down in that hole there, and it apparently, and then of course this end goes into this, and it can, you know, move a little bit. It can also turn, but I don't know if it's meant to turn. But then you got the two holes, which are, get this to sit somewhat level, which are there and there, or are they? Yeah, one's in the middle, which would come up around this thing here. And then the other one, which is also there, would also be under this. So one of them is working off of this pin in the view there. One of them is working off of this pin, and the other one is just under here. And then, like I say, it can turn, it can move like this, probably based on the vacuum coming in here from the front when it purges. But I don't understand the concept, unfortunately, because, you know, there it is in that end. So anyway, and whatever this is supposed to do, of course, the new part is not going to do that, because all it is a, and of course, the gasket, but all it is an elbow, or a T-fitting. So I'm not sure how that's going to work exactly, but I guess we'll find out. I suppose the only possible problem is it would carry fuel up to the carburetor, but I guess we'll wait and see how that goes. Okay, let me go ahead and get cleaned up a little bit here. And I forgot that when I lowered the tank, I got a borescope of the inside that shows that fuel line that's inside the tank, which is kind of interesting. So I'll get that together here shortly, and we'll see you. Well, that was interesting. At the tail end of this video, I was going to put as to why I'm using one of those emissions ports as a fuel return port, related to fuel starvation problems, but that's really another whole video that isn't really related to this check valve. So stay tuned for that, and please like and subscribe if you would. Thank you.